Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be talking about the connection between the mental game and visual skills and habits that creep in because of that. Most, probably the most prevalent way that that shows itself is in the fascination that people have with self evaluation, and it leads to devastation. All right, I see I have two people watching right now, so stay with me here. Oh, Andy, I see your comment. Finally, I can see the comments. Andy does it. Thank you so much for watching. All right, so keep the questions and comments coming. And I'm so excited that I just figured out how to use StreamYard well enough that I can get a comment that comes in right there. All right, so just yesterday I was on the court, and for the umpteenth time, right? And umpteenth is like approaching infinity because it just happens all the time. I get on the court, and especially with adults, they are so fascinated with how they're doing. How am I doing? How am I doing? And so I had this lady, and she was serving, and it was like almost before she hit the ball, she would look into the service box to be ready to evaluate the result of her serve, because on every single serve she has to know how she's doing. And so that's a visual habit, the origin of the habit does not come from the eyes, it comes from the mind. So we have a mind-body connection here. And one thing that's happening with visual training for tennis, which is going to be going into its fourth edition very shortly here. I'm done making promises about that, but it's coming up. It's coming up. It's getting very, very near the end. And frankly, when I get towards the end of a book, I start getting in kind of a weird funk in my brain because I don't like to have closure on things. But I'm doing my best every day. I'm just putting a little more work into finishing that book. But now, one of the interesting facts that is in the new book is the idea that approximately 60% of your brain's activity centers around your vision, whereas less than 10% of your brain's activity has to do with your sense of touch or your hearing. So, that's my notifications going off right there, so I should probably turn my phone off. In case you caught that, that was the sound of Chewbacca on my thing. All right, now, somebody's texting me to say that I'm having a few lives at the same time. As you know, we live 2 or 3. Oh, okay, that's I misunderstood. But anyway, back to my student, because what we had to do first before we could attack her habit of shifting her eyes forward, which is the obvious thing, it's the physical part. And we focus so much on the physical, the technical, and we don't often strike at the root of what the real problem was. So we had to stop and say, hey, look, why are you doing it? Is it because you're evaluating every shot? So here's what I want you to do. So the first step was to see if I could get her to sort of force herself to keep her eyes up at contact until such time as she hit the ball, and just learn to trust that the ball is going over there. This is another huge part of the visual skills of tennis, something that Sterling Strothers had a good influence with me on, is the understanding that the target is in your imagination. Because when you're executing the shot, you are not looking at the target. It is over there. And it's so far in your peripheral vision that you really need to know where it is without being able to truly see it. So there's a level of trust that needs to happen there. And the only way to build that trust up is with practice and the understanding of where is the target. So one thing that I do with my players is I have them look up at the place where they're going to make contact, but then they have to point to the target without looking. And then they get to look and they get to see how accurate that was. And then they go, oh, I have to move it a little more over there. Okay, oh, now I know where the target is over there. But even so, that's still kind of a surface level strategy for building that in, because even in attempting to do that stuff, my student was trying really hard not to look, but the urge was so strong. So during a ball pickup, I got her to say, I don't have to evaluate myself every time, right? And then, first we had to kind of put away the need, the desire to evaluate. And actually, let me back up for a second, because first she had to realize that doing that constant evaluation was not helping her, right? Do you see how that doesn't help you? Because of that, your urge to bring your head down affects your serve negatively. So she latched onto that quickly. And this could be a point of conflict. You might have people who just have this dogged determination and they don't want to work with you in this way. I've lost students because they didn't want to delve into self-awareness for 1 minute. All they wanted me to do was work on their technique. I'm 100% technically inclined. I'm like, well, we probably shouldn't work together then. Again, and I'll challenge you this way: that's not going to work. And the reason is because you're making yourself so tense with trying to control everything. Anyway, but I digress. So back to my student, right? So she came to the realization first that it wasn't helping her. Then number two, she realized that she needed to be able to say something to end that, and then it's probably going to come back. So she's going to have to say, I don't want to evaluate every shot. I don't need to. And then that creates a vacuum, because now you've done this thing that in cognitive psychology is called thought stopping, right? And so here's an interesting thing that you can do, is that if you're having a recurring thought that you don't want, and this happens on a tennis court all the time, is you can say, stop. And then a funny thing happens. Immediately after you say stop, then you've got nothing. But now nature abhors a vacuum, so now you've got to fill it with something else. So anyway, so now what we did is we got her to shift towards the fact that, what does she want to do? She wants to bring her full attention to her shot. So she wants to allow her full attention to come to her contact point, because that is going to help her. And she's also going to, what she also wants to do is trust that she can hit towards the target in her imagination. And yet what we know in the building of new habits is that the old habit never truly dies. Okay? Repeat. The old habit never truly dies. You never, ever, ever break an old habit. Instead, what you do is you replace it with a new one. So at the end of the lesson, we were able to get her to have 3 consecutive serves where her head was, relatively upward with just a very minor amount of head forward tilt. And we called that a success. And we'll refine that. But then on the 4th one, there's that force of habit that's happening there. So now we'll go on to 4 out of 5 and 9 out of 10 and 10 in a row. Hello, Bruce Holloway. I see you there. Andy, are you still on? Does anybody have any questions or comments? So This would be a good time since we have people saying hello. Quick recap for those of you just tuning in. We're talking about the fascination that people have with self-evaluation that leads to devastation. And so what we had to do is we had to help my student understand that because she's evaluating every shot, that it's affecting how, her vision, because she's looking, just a look in order to evaluate. So first we had to stop her from wanting to evaluate. Ken Goff tuning in for a tennis discussion. Okay, awesome. That was my neighbor from up the street. Anyway, so we've come a long way since then, haven't we? But the evaluation thing gets in the way. So first we had to eliminate the desire to evaluate and replace it with a desire to have full awareness on the thing that actually matters, which is getting the work done. And then also realizing that there's still time after you hit the ball to see what happened. So it doesn't mean you're not going to be able to see what happened. But then, even then, it doesn't necessarily mean evaluating what you've done, but just simply taking notice of, okay, when I did this, that happened. And then, oh, what do I want to have happen? I want it to go over there. All right. So a minute change needs to happen some way. And then what happens is people then get tuned in with the fact that their brain can make little subtle adjustments of the angle of their racket to produce the shot that they want. But the sticking point is the pretty strong urge that many players have to evaluate every single shot and judge it as a good shot, a bad shot. Am I improving? Am I getting worse? What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Oh, hey, there was one. Maybe there's hope. Uh-oh. And then I get excited, and then I get tense, and then, oh, I missed the next one. So putting that away kind of takes away a lot of the emotional baggage. And I think we even touched on the idea that somehow somebody out there will be impressed, and maybe sometimes people even are still playing to please their parents. And that's where a lot of the self-evaluation comes from. I know for me that when I was 23, I made up my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm done playing for any other reason than the fact that I want to and I like it. So I don't have nothing to prove. I have nothing to prove to anybody. And that was one of my big moments in life. I mean, that was a big moment for me to be able to say, all right, I'm not going to be other focused on this. I'm playing for my own enjoyment. I don't care what other people think. It didn't like all of a sudden make me invulnerable, that's for sure. But that put me in the right direction mentally and emotionally to be able to go at it that way. All right. All right. Yeah, Ken, you recap later. I'm sure you're going to be able to apply this to your everyday life. And that's it for now. But anyway, the book will be coming out soon, and you'll be seeing an announcement on that. It could be in under a week, but I'll know a lot more as I get a lot closer, and I'll then do probably a 5-day launch, and there'll be some things that you can get a hold of. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your comments, and we'll see you in the next one. In case you haven't noticed, on my social media, I've been posting a pretty lengthy series of interviews with Robert Lansdorp. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, you can go into the playlists and you can find playlists that you like. So there's a playlist of 17 short videos of my interview with Robert Lansdorp, as well as lots of different topics tried to make as many different topics out of those. Also, I'm probably going to be going back and cleaning up some of my lists because there's maybe a little too much overlap between those. But anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.